Okay, so picture this.
Okay.
You're late for a meeting,
Mhm.
stuck in traffic, phone glued to your hand,
Yep.
desperately hoping your GPS finds a shortcut.
Right.
But have you ever, stopped to think while you're weaving through those back streets? If maybe relying on GPS all the time is making us,
Oh, yeah.
well, a little less spatially aware.
100%.
Today, we're diving into some fascinating research about GPS and its impact on our inner navigation systems.
Yeah, it's really interesting stuff.
So you shared a meta-analysis with me,
I did.
which sounds incredibly official.
It is. It's like if the best research papers all got together, had a big academic party.
Yeah.
This is the guest list. This
Yeah.
is like the greatest hits
But-
of the research.
So this meta-analysis looked at a ton of studies about GPS and navigation skills.
Yep, pulled together all the findings, all the interesting stuff, and kind of tried to see what the overall picture was.
Okay.
And what was really interesting is they dug into 3 specific areas. How well we learn our surroundings, how well we can plan routes and actually get around, and our overall feeling about how good we are at navigation.
Okay.
You know, that I'm good with directions, or
Yeah.
I always get lost kind of feeling.
Right, I have a terrible sense of direction.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack that first one.
Okay.
How about we call it environmental knowledge for short?
I like it.
Basically, how well do we learn the lay of the land when we're using GPS?
Yeah, so you got to, think of it like building a mental map in your head.
Okay.
Right? Like, how well can you visualize your neighborhood, the
Right.
roads, the landmarks, all of that?
Right.
And so some studies that they looked at showed kind of mixed results, to be honest.
Okay.
In some cases, GPS users seemed better at remembering their surroundings,
Okay.
while others showed they were worse.
Interesting.
And then there were others where it made no difference at all.
Okay, so far, not exactly a smoking gun one way or the other.
No, not at this point.
Okay.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The studies where people said they used GPS a lot in their daily lives,
Wow.
really relied on it,
Mm-hmm.
generally showed that they didn't create as strong of a mental map.
Interesting.
It's almost as if their brain was saying, why bother remembering all of this when my little GPS buddy has got my back?
Yeah, it's like if you always have a friend who knows the answer to a trivia question,
Right.
you're never going to learn it yourself if you can just rely on them.
100%. And it speaks to this idea that our brains are incredibly adaptable.
Yeah.
They're efficient.
Right.
If we're not actively using certain skills, our brains might just decide to prioritize other things.
It's amazing and terrifying all at the same time.
It really is.
Like that our brains are capable of incredible things,
Mm-hmm.
but also can be a little bit lazy.
Yeah. Economical, I guess.
Yeah. 'Cause
They don't want to waste energy on things that they're not using.
Right. And this is where I think understanding the different ways that researchers study navigation ability is
Right.
so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not just one thing.
Right.
Right. It's not just, can you remember how to get to the grocery store?
Right.
There are a lot of different aspects to it.
Okay, so walk me through it.
Sure.
What were they looking at specifically?
So they would look at things like how well people could remember routes,
Okay.
right? So if you tell them to go a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
can they retrace their steps?
Right.
They looked at things like recognizing landmarks,
Okay.
being able to make judgments about distances.
Okay.
Some studies even used virtual environments,
Oh, wow.
like computer simulations,
Interesting.
to kind of test people's navigation abilities,
Okay.
while others had people actually go out into the real world.
Wow, so really granular.
Oh, yeah, they were getting down to the nitty-gritty.
Really trying to figure out how GPS was impacting our brains.
And what's interesting is they even looked at people's brain activity
Oh, wow.
while they were navigating
Wow.
to see if there were differences,
That's wild.
right? Like, were certain areas of the brain more or less active
Right.
when people were using GPS versus when they weren't?
So it sounds like they were leaving no stone unturned in this research.
They were really trying to get a complete picture.
Wow.
And, by combining all of these different research methods, a clearer picture really did start to emerge.
Okay.
For example, they found that while GPS might help us get from point A to point B more efficiently, it could also lead to what they call cognitive offloading.
Okay. Cognitive offloading. What exactly does that mean?
That's a great question.
It sounds like we're outsourcing brain power to our phones.
You got it.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Interesting.
Cognitive offloading is basically when we rely on external tools,
Okay.
like our phones, our GPS systems,
Mhm.
to handle mental tasks that we would have traditionally done ourselves.
Okay.
And while this can be incredibly helpful,
Right.
think about it.
It makes our lives easier.
Right, like GPS has been a game changer in so many ways.
100%.
But it also means that we might not be engaging those cognitive muscles as much as we used to.
It makes you think twice about reaching for your phone every time you need to get somewhere.
Yeah, it's food for thought.
It is. So if our environmental knowledge, our ability to build those mental maps might be affected by GPS,
Yeah.
what about the actual act of navigating,
Right.
of figuring out how to get from point A to point B?
Right.
They call that wayfinding, right?
Yeah, that's right. Wayfinding.
Okay.
And this is where things get, I think, even more nuanced.
Okay.
Because wayfinding is really about those in-the-moment decisions that we're making while we're navigating.
Okay.
Right? So think of it this way. Environmental knowledge
Yeah.
is like knowing your city like the back of your hand.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Wayfinding is be able to successfully navigate a detour
Okay.
when your usual route is blocked.
Right. So it's less about memorizing the landmarks and more about being able to adapt on the fly.
You got it.
Okay. So what did the research have to say about that?
So this is where GPS actually scores some points.
Okay.
Because studies that looked at how well people navigated while they were using GPS generally found that it made them better at wayfinding.
Okay. That makes sense.
They made fewer wrong turns, they got to their destination faster,
Sure.
they were less likely to get frustrated and pull over and ask for directions.
Right. It's like having a co-driver in a rally car,
Exactly.
feeding you turn-by-turn directions.
100%. It's like having a little navigator right there in your pocket.
Okay, but does that mean that GPS is, like, off the hook?
Well, not so fast.
Okay.
Because here's the thing.
Okay.
Most of these studies focused on wayfinding while people were actively using GPS.
Okay.
They weren't really designed to see if relying on GPS long-term
Right.
actually makes you a worse navigator overall when you don't have it.
Ah. So it might be helping you in the moment,
Right.
but potentially at the cost of building those mental mapping skills
Oh,
that we were talking about earlier.
It's like using a calculator. For every math problem, right? Sure, you're going to get the answer.
Right.
But you might forget how to do basic arithmetic in your head
Right.
if you're not practicing.
It's the same concept.
Exactly. And it's that long-term impact
Yeah.
that researchers are still trying to fully understand because
Yeah.
there's a difference between being able to follow a blue dot on a screen
Right.
and truly understanding the spatial relationships between places.
Right. It's like the difference between following a recipe
Yes.
and being able to, like, whip up a delicious meal from scratch.
100%.
Okay, so we've talked about environmental knowledge, building those mental maps, wayfinding, that in-the-moment decision-making of navigation.
Yeah.
What about our overall sense of direction? You know, that feeling of, I'm good with directions, or I'm definitely going to need a map for this.
Yeah, that ask me for directions, I've got you, or
Right.
please don't ask me for directions.
Alert, get us lost.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's the third area that they looked at.
Okay.
And it is a really interesting one
Okay.
because it gets into how we feel about our own navigation abilities.
Okay.
So imagine this, you're walking through a city,
Okay.
someone comes up to you and asks you, which way's north?
Oh.
Do you know?
I am 100% reaching for my phone
Right.
and then probably spinning around in a circle 3 times trying to figure out
Exactly.
which way the little arrow is pointing.
Can you get it? That's exactly what we're talking about, is that feeling of, I don't even know which way I'm facing
Right.
unless I have my phone.
Exactly.
And the research has found a pretty consistent link
Okay.
between frequent GPS use
Okay.
and a poorer sense of direction.
Interesting.
It's like the more we rely on that little blue dot to be our guide,
Right.
the less confident we feel in our own internal compass.
Okay, but isn't it also possible that people who already have a poor sense of direction
Right.
are just more likely to use GPS in the first place?
That is the million-dollar question.
Okay.
It's that chicken or the egg.
Right.
Does using GPS make you less confident?
Right.
Do people who already lack confidence rely on GPS more?
It's so interesting.
It's really hard to tease apart
Yeah.
which one is the cause and which one is the effect.
Right.
But it seems likely that it's some kind of a two-way street.
Right. They're feeding into each other.
Exactly.
So it's a tangled web, but it seems like GPS is at least playing some kind of role
Right.
in shaping our sense of direction.
It's part of the equation.
Right. But how do they actually measure something as subjective as sense of direction?
Right, because you can't just like
Right.
hook someone up to a machine and be like, how's your sense of direction doing today?
Right. What are your internal compass levels at?
Exactly. So
Right.
they had to get creative.
Okay. How'd they do it?
Well, a lot of studies used questionnaires.
Okay.
So they would just ask people,
Okay.
you know, how good are you at finding your way around unfamiliar places? Do you usually know which direction you're facing?
Sure.
Things like that.
Okay.
And remember that impressive meta-analysis we were talking about earlier?
Yes.
That combined data from like a ton of studies.
Yeah.
Well, when they analyzed all the data from those questionnaires,
Mhm.
they found a small but statistically significant link
Okay.
between GPS use
Yeah.
and a lower sense of direction.
Interesting.
So even if it's not the only factor,
Right.
it seems like it's part of the story.
It's in the mix.
Exactly.
So beyond just getting lost, right?
Right.
Are there any other implications
That's a great question.
to this potential decline in our sense of direction?
Well, that's what we're going to get into next.
Okay.
Because it turns out that our sense of direction might be more important
Okay.
than we realize.
Interesting.
It might be more than just getting lost.
Okay.
Because remember how we were talking about our brains being like muscles?
Yeah, like you got to exercise them.
Exactly. Use it or lose it, right? Well, some researchers believe that spatial navigation, that ability to build those mental maps and orient ourselves in the world,
Right.
might be especially important for keeping our cognitive muscles strong as we age.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You're telling me that honing my sense of direction could actually help my brain stay sharp
It's possible.
as I get older?
It's possible.
That's way more motivating than those brain training apps
Right.
that I never do.
It's a lot more fun
Way more fun.
to think about exploring a new city
Yeah.
than it is to, like, you know,
Do a Sudoku.
match those symbols on a screen.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, seriously, some studies have actually found a link
Okay.
between strong spatial navigation skills
Okay.
and a lower risk of cognitive decline as we get older.
That's amazing. So it's not just about being able to find our way to the grocery store.
Right?
It's potentially about maintaining our brain health as we age.
It could be a piece of the puzzle.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, and of course, you know, more research is always needed. But it's a really promising area of study.
Right.
And I think it gives us another reason to be mindful of how much we're relying on GPS.
Right.
Because it might be impacting our brains in ways that we don't even fully understand yet.
It's like we've been so focused on the convenience of it
Right.
that we haven't really thought about what it might be doing long term.
Exactly. It's a trade-off.
Right.
Right? And like anything else, moderation is probably key.
Moderation is key in all things, I guess,
That's what they say.
including GPS, it seems.
Exactly. And the good news is
Okay.
that there are so many easy and fun ways to kind of flex those navigation muscles in everyday life.
Yeah. What are some things that people can do?
So many things.
Yeah.
Like, for example, next time you're going somewhere new,
Go.
try using your GPS just for an overview
Okay.
at the beginning, just to get a sense of the general direction and the major roads.
Right.
But then see if you can find your way without looking at your phone for every single turn.
I'd love that.
Challenge yourself a little bit.
Or how about this? Instead of taking the same route to work every day,
Yes.
mix it up.
Mix it up.
Take a different road.
Explore.
Explore a new neighborhood.
Yes.
It's like cross-training for your brain.
Exactly. And you might discover some cool new places along the way.
Right.
Who knows?
That's awesome.
And you know, another thing is just pay attention to your surroundings. Like when
Yeah.
you are walking around,
Be present.
be present, look for landmarks,
Right.
notice the direction of the sun,
Okay.
try to get a sense of like the layout of the land.
I like that.
It takes a little bit of extra effort,
Right.
but it's good for you.
It's like a workout for your brain.
It is a workout for your brain.
I love it.
It
This has been such a fascinating deep dive.
really has.
Okay, so to kind of wrap things up,
Okay.
GPS,
Yes.
incredibly useful tool,
Oh, yeah. It's a lifesaver.
but maybe not something to rely on 100% of the time.
Maybe not 100% of the time.
Yeah.
It's all about balance, right?
Right, finding that balance.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because it seems like finding our way the old-fashioned way might just be good for us,
Right.
both mentally and maybe even like cognitively as we age.
It's good to keep those skills sharp.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are your final thoughts?
You know, it makes you think about the future of navigation. Yeah, where are we going?
Where are we going with all of this?
Right.
Right, because with self-driving cars on the horizon.
Right. Are they going to make all this irrelevant?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Are our navigation skills just going to become completely obsolete?
Right.
Like, are we all just going to forget how to read a map
Right.
or trust our own sense of direction?
It's a trip.
It's a fascinating question to ponder.
It is, and who knows, maybe it's not all doom and gloom.
Right.
Maybe, like you said earlier, we'll adapt.
Right.
Our brains will find a way.
Right. Our brains are adaptable.
Right.
They'll figure it out.
Or maybe technology will evolve in a way
Yes.
that actually enhances our natural abilities
Ooh, I like that.
instead of replacing them.
What if instead of just telling us where to go,
Right.
GPS systems actually taught us about our surroundings
Interesting.
and helped us strengthen those mental maps?
That would be amazing.
That would be a game changer.
Sign me up for that GPS.
Right?
I want the GPS that teaches me how to not need it anymore.
Exactly.
That's the dream.
The GPS that puts itself out of business.
Exactly.
I love it. Well, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It has.
Maybe it's time to put our phones down every now and then,
Every now and then.
engage those navigational muscles,
Yeah.
and rediscover the joy
Yes.
of finding our own way.
I love it.
Who knows what we might discover
Who knows?
along the way.
Exactly. You might discover a new favorite restaurant,
You might discover something.
a shortcut,
A shortcut.
a new friend.
A new friend.
You never know.
The possibilities are endless.
The possibilities are endless.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you for having me.
And remember, sometimes getting a little lost can be the best way to truly find yourself.
I love that. I'm going to steal that one. Yeah, it's not just about finding your way around.
Right.
It might actually have some implications for our brain health as we get older.
Okay.
So it's not just about getting lost.
Right.
Remember how we were talking about our brains being like muscles?
Yeah, like you got to exercise them.
Exactly. Use it or lose it.
Right.
Well, some researchers believe that spatial navigation,
Okay.
that ability to build those mental maps and orient ourselves in the world,
Right.
might be especially important for keeping our cognitive muscles strong as we age.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
You're telling me that honing my sense of direction could actually help my brain stay sharp
It's possible.
as I get older?
It's possible.
That's way more motivating than those brain training apps
right.
that I never do.
It's a lot more fun
Way more fun.
to think about exploring a new city
Yeah.
than it is to
Do the Sudoku.
match those symbols on a screen.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, seriously, some studies have actually found a link
Okay.
between strong spatial navigation skills
Okay.
and a lower risk of cognitive decline as we get older.
That's amazing. So it's not just about being able to find our way to the grocery store.
Right?
It's potentially about maintaining our brain health as we age.
It could be a piece of the puzzle.
That is fascinating.
Yeah. And of course, more research is always needed,
Of course.
but it's a really promising area of study.
Right.
And I think it gives us another reason to be mindful of how much we're relying on GPS.
Right.
Because it might be impacting our brains in ways that we don't even fully understand yet.
It's like we've been so focused on the convenience of it
Right.
that we haven't really thought about what it might be doing long term.
Exactly. It's a trade-off,
Right?
right? And like anything else, moderation is probably key.
Moderation is key in all things, I
And
guess.
that's what they say.
Including GPS, it seems.
Exactly. And the good news is that there are so many easy and fun ways to kind of flex those navigation muscles in everyday life.
Yeah. What are some things that people can do?
So many things.
Okay.
Like, for example, next time you're going somewhere new,
Okay.
try using your GPS just for an overview
Okay.
at the beginning, just to get a sense of the general direction in the major roads.
Right.
But then see if you can find your way without looking at your phone for every single turn.
I love that.
Challenge yourself a little bit.
Or how about this? Instead of taking the same route to work every day,
Yes.
mix it up.
Mix it up.
Take a different road.
Explore.
Explore a new neighborhood.
Yes.
It's like cross-training for your brain.
Exactly. And you might discover some cool new places along the way.
Right.
Who knows?
That's awesome.
And another thing is just pay attention to your surroundings.
Yes.
Like when you are walking around,
Be present.
be present, look for landmarks,
Right.
notice the direction of the sun. Try to get a sense of like the layout of the land.
I like that.
It takes a little bit of extra effort,
Right.
but it's good for you.
It's like a workout for your brain.
It is a workout for your brain.
So it sounds like what we're learning is that GPS can be a really helpful tool.
Oh, absolutely.
But like anything else,
Yes.
it's all about balance.
moderation,
Okay.
moderation.
Right.
We don't want to let those navigation muscles atrophy completely.
Right. Because it turns out that wayfinding
Yeah.
and having a good sense of direction,
Mhm.
it's about more than just getting from point A to point B.
It's about the journey,
It's about the journey.
and it's about keeping our brains healthy.
I love it. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
It was great having you. And for everyone listening, Be sure to check back next time when we dive into a whole new topic.
Can't wait.
See you then.